Hello YouTube, in this video we're going to take that large got group of nodes that we created before and we're going to turn that into a macro, and that'll allow our player and other enemies to use it. Let's right click, go to macros and create new macro. And we'll call this take damage. Alright, let's go into the macro and we're going to add several input ports to this. The first will be a string, and we'll add an integer, and 2 audio clips, and 2 game objects. Alright, and the first variable is going to be called tag. The second one will be called health. The next one will be our hit clip, then our explosion clip, the next one will be called me, and then finally the last one will be called projectile. Alright, and then I'm going to create a new variable called _health. Alright, now if we go back to the canvas, I'm going to select all the nodes by right-clicking on the group and then go to Copy Selected Nodes. And then back in the macro, I'll press Ctrl-V, which will paste them below. I'm just going to drag things down so I can see everything. Alright, now we're going to start hooking everything up. First we'll drag out from the projectile, and we're going to look for compare tag. And we're going to plug in the tag port. And actually, I'm just going to drag up the switch condition node from below. Drag the value to condition. Drag into the switch condition. Alright, I'm going to disconnect play one shot and bring that up. And let's drag in our hit clip. And for the audio source, I'm going to drag in the me variable. Alright, I'm going to disconnect the health node and bring it up. Have it reference the new variable we created. I'm going to delete the old one it automatically just made. And now let's connect that to play one shot. Alright, I'm going to drag up the get variable node and I'm going to drag the projectile into the blackboard and the value into the health node. Alright, let's drag up the destroy object so we can destroy the projectile. Let's drag the projectile into the object port. And next we'll drag up the switch comparison, disconnecting everything but play clip at point. I'm going to change the constant to 0. And that'll actually let us use the less than and the equal to slot. You'll see why in just a few moments. Alright, I'll drag health to the A port and 0 to the B port. I will drag the A equals B port into the play clip at point. And what this means is if the health is less than or equal to 0, then it'll play that explosion clip and then destroy the enemy. And then I'll drag the A is greater than B port into the out node. And that'll go back to the canvas if the enemy is still alive. And now I'm going to drag me into the destroy game object if the enemy has 0 or less health. And I'm going to create a variable for our main camera. And I'll drag that into the position of the play clip at point node. Oops, let's leave this as out. I need to add a new integer, and this will be called new health. And this will create an output port for our new health, which I'll drag from the set health node. And now what I need to do is every time we enter this macro, I need to set the health variable. So I'm going to drag the set health near the switch condition node. Alright, so we'll connect the switch condition into the in port of the macro, and then we'll drag true into the set health node we just created, and then we'll drag the health from the macro port into the value. And that's all connected to play one shot. And we don't need to do anything with the value of this set health node right now because we're just storing it as a variable. Now, let's go back to the enemy canvas and let's plug everything in. We need to refresh the ports. And now we're just going to work on hooking everything back up. So trigger2d enter will go into the import for the macro. The tag we're looking for is player laser. And we'll drag our health value into the health port. We'll choose our hit clip, then the explosion clip, and then we'll drag me into the canvas and set that as the me port, and projectile will come from the other of the trigger2d node. And if the enemy is still alive, we'll set the health once we exit the macro. And let's test this. Alright, looks good. Let's click apply. And now we can replace the old nodes with our new macro node. I'm just going to tidy it up a little bit. Alright, let's reapply again. Let's get rid of this camera variable since we don't need it anymore. It's already inside the macro. Alright, now we're just going to go back to the player object and we're going to add a sound effect for shooting, and then we're going to hook up that same macro we just created. Let's look for play one shot. And for the clip, we're going to use the second sound effects laser. Let's test it. That looks good. And now we're going to create a new trigger2d node. And then we're going to get our macro that we just created called take damage. Now we'll start hooking everything up just like we did for the enemy. Let's add a new variable for health for the player. We'll drag that to the canvas and drag that into the health port of the macro, and we'll set it to 3. And this time the tag will be enemy laser. Alright, let's choose our hit and explosion clips. And let's drag me to the canvas and put that into the me port of the macro. And then we're going to set health once we exit the macro if we're still alive. Let's give it a test. You can see our health go down and we die. Let's apply this. And then we should put this in another group, which I'm going to leave as got shot. Alright, that's it for this video. In the next video, we're actually going to take care of a bug I found with the player and enemy lasers. And then we're also going to create a second enemy type, which will have a different movement pattern than the first enemy. So I hope to see you then.